Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ned Bellavance, Ned1313 on Twitter. Welcome to the Daily Check-In for May 22nd, 2020. And no, your clock is not off by an hour. I'm doing this an hour early because in an hour, I'm going to be in a car for an hour and a half. So can't really do well, I guess I could do the live stream from there, but I don't really want to unless you want to hear my kids yelling in the background. So I thought, do it an hour earlier. It'll be fine. So that's why I'm doing it right now. Today's topic is becoming a developer. And this is going to be an interesting topic because instead of having advice for you, I am asking for advice from you. I want to hear from you. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Two housekeeping items. Okay, so the first one is I mentioned yesterday that it updated all of the YouTube content to have the topic of each daily check-in before the date. So it's a lot easier to parse. And I was like, ooh, I should probably do that for the podcast too. So I did it. I went through the podcast and I updated the title for all of those. So if you're thinking about doing the podcast, and I also discovered that the easiest way to find the podcast, at least in my podcatcher of choice, is to search for Daily Check-In or Ned1313, and it should come up. I tried Ned in the Cloud and I got a bunch of other stuff. So those are the two things to search for if you'd rather listen to the audio version of this. Okay, so that is one thing. The other thing is, if you could do me a favor, and I know I'm asking, for you to do something, but if you've watched a few episodes, I've maybe built up some goodwill. If you could pause the video right now, just pause it and just share this. Just share the channel or share this on social media of some kind. Just pause it right now. Okay, thank you. Thank you for pausing it and sharing it. I really appreciate that. I'm just trying to get more eyes on this and get more viewership, not to monetize, just, I like to see the numbers go up and get that custom URL in YouTube. So that's my main motivation. Anyway, I want to check in with you. How are you doing? We made it to Friday. Friday, big thumbs up for Friday. I love this week was really weird and very tough. And the fact that I finally made it to Friday and now I can go kind of on a Memorial Day vacation kind of thing, that's nice. And I hope you have something planned for the holiday too, whether it's staying at home or if you're in a situation where you can go somewhere. That's awesome, and I'm excited for you to get out and enjoy the holiday a little bit, especially if you're in the U.S. I know outside of the U.S. you don't celebrate Memorial Day, so just pretend you're in the U.S. and take Monday off. I'm sure that'll work out great. Anyway, all right, let's get into the topic at hand: becoming a developer. Now, like I said at the top, I'm not telling you how to become a developer or even honestly offering any advice on how to become a developer. And the reason is because I am not a developer at all. I say that, and that's like kind of true, right? Like I've written PowerShell scripts. I learned a little bit of Perl when I was in college. I got my CS degree, so I did some programming there, and that's actually probably the closest I ever came to being a developer was writing in C sharp. And so this was back in like 2004 ish time frame. So this was like C sharp and very early .NET, might have been 1.0. That's the closest I ever came to being a developer because I had to write an application as part of my senior project. So I did that. And that's the closest I've ever come. And I've never really recaptured that since because I went straight down the infrastructure rabbit hole and kind of never turned back. But over the years, I've thought to myself, maybe I should learn a language more in depth. I mean, I know PowerShell pretty well, but PowerShell is basically C sharp. I know a little bit of Perl. I know like smatterings of PHP, just like random things I've picked up over the years. But I've thought, should I learn a language? Should I become more of a developer? And as I've watched the progression of cloud and the way in which things are approached now, it's occurred to me, maybe I should become a developer or at least take on a lot more developer traits and mindsets because a lot of what I'm doing when it comes to working with cloud is working with APIs. It's building Terraform templates. It's building ARM templates. It's developer-y kind of stuff. Now, the problem I've always had when it comes to learning to program is that I always get to the 100 or almost 200 level and I stop and things just kind of peter out. In part because I need I need a reason to continue. So I look at it, there's like three barriers to me becoming more involved in development. One is time. I mean, honestly, I'm fairly busy with all my projects, so I would have to carve out time specifically for that. And I do run my own business, so carving out time to do a project that doesn't earn me anything means I'm giving up potential income over here. So that is a consideration. The second is focus. And I don't mean like time to focus on something. I mean like, what language do I even learn? Do I learn Go? Do I learn Rust? Should I get back into C sharp? Like, I don't even know which language I would choose. And then what would I even do with it? What should I focus on as a project? So, I mean, those are two barriers. The third barrier is that I've always felt when I've gotten up to a certain point with programming, gotten through that 100 level, getting started, beginner course or tutorial or whatever it is, I would hit this wall. And it was hard to find things that took you through that to becoming more of an actual developer. And I think part of that is the only way to really get that experience is to find an on ramp beyond those tutorials, because those tutorials are meant to do one of two things. They're either meant to teach you programming or they're meant to teach you how things are done in a specific language. And a lot of the times, the latter are assuming you already have a certain level of programming acumen and they're just acclimating you to the way their language does it as opposed to another language. Because that's the case, and there's this base assumption of what programming background you already have, it really is hard to make that transition. And it's where I've stopped every time is okay, I can write a very basic application that, I don't know, counts fruit or something, or it's like an inventory app that hooks into a database. But then you get beyond that and you're like, there seems to be this gulf between the amateur developer that I am and the true blue developer who's rolling out, applications and writing microservices and doing all that kind of cool stuff. I think there's a few potential on ramps. One would be find an open source project that I really like or I'm interested in contributing to and getting immersed in that. But then again, it's not a slow ramp up. It's a high learning curve when it comes to these open source projects because you're getting thrown in the deep end of a legitimate application that already has legit developers working on it. And this kind of happened to me. I tried to contribute back to Terraform and I'd written a little bit of Go code to do something very simple. And I was using an example of the way that they were already doing it. It had to do with the way that it parsed dates. And what I found out, like once I submitted my first pull request, well, first of all, I should have done it a little bit different. I didn't fill everything out quite. And then they were making the shift to .12 from .11. So then the person who was trying to help me get my PR accepted, bless his heart, he was patient, but he was like, oh, you should do it this way and go. And I was like, I don't know what those words are you're using to, and I don't remember what they were, but he's like, you should build a struct and build this other thing. And I was like, you've now gone beyond my knowledge of Go. And so there was, again, like this gulf between the what I knew at that 100 level and what he was asking me to do in this, professional program that hundreds and thousands of people use. So that's a little bit daunting. Another potential option is to take a part-time job as a junior dev. I mean, in the world of infrastructure, I'm a senior architect. Like I know how to put together complex infrastructures and get things running on them. I know how to build cloud architectures, but I don't know how to develop. So I can't go into a senior position. I would have to, basically bust myself back down to junior level and take the time to learn from that level, which would also mean sacrificing income while I'm learning this. So there has to be a goal down the road where it makes up for the fact that I'm sacrificing income to learn this thing. So that is an option. I could take a part-time job as a dev and just lower the amount of work I'm doing otherwise until I ramp up to a certain point. Or the last option is honestly just let the dream go. Maybe I don't need to be a developer. Maybe I don't need to learn that skill set. But increasingly, it seems like having a solid development skill set is going to be super beneficial working in IT in the next 5 to 10 years. Not having that skill set could seriously limit your potential earnings. So With that in mind, this is where you come in, dear viewer or dear listener. I am looking for advice. If you are someone who has made the transition or bridged the gap from being an infrastructure ops person into the development world, how did you do it? Did you do one of the things that I talked about? Was there some other option? Were you just thrown into the deep end because your work needed a developer or something? I'm really curious to hear how you made that transition and what your thoughts are on other people trying to transition or at least learn that skill set. So, what helped? What resources? What advice would you give to me? That's where I want to hear back from you. So, leave something in the comments or reach out to me on Twitter. It's Ned1313, or find me on LinkedIn. It's just Ned Bellavance. It's pretty easy to find. And let me know if you're one of the people that has made that transition from ops to dev. I want to hear your story, and I want to hear how you did it because I'm curious and I would like to make a similar transition. I still want to have a foot on each side, but I want to be more of a developer, and I'm not sure how to go about that. So that's uh that's all I got for today and all I got for the week. Thank you for watching. Until Monday, stay healthy and stay safe, and I will talk to you next week.